The autumn rain drummed steadily against the windows of Bluestem, one of Kansas City's most exclusive restaurants. As Travis Kelce finished his dinner with his business manager, they'd been discussing endorsement deals over plates that cost more than some people made in a week. But Travis's mind kept drifting to the upcoming playoff push. The Chiefs were looking strong this season, and he could already taste another Super Bowl ring. "Travis, you listening?" his manager asked, sliding a contract across the white tablecloth. "Nike wants an answer by Friday." "Yeah, sorry, man. Just thinking about the game Sunday." Travis scribbled his signature and reached for his wallet to pay the tip in cash, a habit he'd picked up from his father, who always said good service deserved to be rewarded immediately. The Louis Vuitton wallet was thick with bills. Travis always carried cash, not because he needed to, but because it made him feel connected to his roots. Growing up in Cleveland Heights, his family hadn't had much, and cash money felt real in a way that credit cards never did. After dinner, Travis and his manager made a run for the parking garage through the downpour. They said their goodbyes, and Travis climbed into his midnight blue Lamborghini Urus, already thinking about getting home to review game film. It wasn't until he stopped for gas 20 minutes later that he realized his wallet was gone. Travis patted down his jacket pockets, checked the center console, looked under the seats. Nothing. His stomach dropped as he remembered pulling it out at the restaurant. He must have left it on the table. "Damn it," he muttered, turning the SUV around and heading back to Bluestem. The restaurant was closing when he arrived, but the manager recognized him immediately. "Mr. Kelce, forget something? My wallet. I think I left it at table 12. They searched everywhere. The table, the floor around it, even the bathroom Travis had used. The cleaning crew hadn't found anything either. It was like the wallet had vanished into thin air. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Kelce," the manager said. "Sometimes these things turn up in a day or two. I'll have my staff keep an eye out." Travis drove home feeling frustrated but not panicked. The wallet had contained about $3,000 in cash, plus all his credit cards and ID. The money stung a little, not because he couldn't afford to lose it, but because it represented something. His grandfather had always carried cash. His father, too. It was family tradition. The first thing Travis did when he got home was call his credit card company. American Express, Chase, Bank of America. He canceled everything. Better safe than sorry. The cash was gone, but at least no one could run up charges on his card. "Security is priority number one," his assistant reminded him when he called to explain what happened. "Remember what happened to Patrick when someone got hold of his information?" Travis spent the next 3 days dealing with the aftermath. New credit cards, new driver's license, new everything. It was a pain, but he'd been through worse. By Thursday, he'd mostly put the whole thing out of his mind. That's when his phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. "Hello?" Travis answered, expecting another reporter or someone trying to sell him something. Hi, is this Travis Kelce?" The voice was young, nervous, definitely a kid. "Yeah, this is Travis. Who's this?" "My name is Marcus Johnson. I found your wallet." Travis sat up straighter in his home office chair. "You found my wallet? Where?" "Outside that fancy restaurant downtown. Bluestem, I think it's called. It was just lying there in the parking lot, all wet from the rain." "When did you find it?" "Monday night. I've been trying to figure out how to call you ever since." Travis felt a mix of relief and curiosity. Monday night was 3 days ago. The same night he'd lost? "Well, I'm glad you called. Is everything still in there?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Yes, sir. Everything's here. Your ID, your credit cards, even the money." "The money's still there?" Travis couldn't hide his surprise. $3,000 in cash would be life-changing money for a lot of people, especially a kid. "Yes, sir." I counted it. $3,047. The precise amount convinced Travis this was legit. "Marcus, where are you calling from?" "I'm at the library downtown. I don't have a phone, so I had to wait until I could get here to look up your number online." Something about the kid's voice tugged at Travis's heart. There was a maturity there that seemed beyond his years, but also an innocence that reminded Travis of himself at that age. "Marcus, I really appreciate it. Can we meet up so I can get my wallet back? And I want to give you a reward for being so honest." "You don't need to give me nothing, Mr. Kelce. I just want to get your stuff back to you." "I insist. How about we meet at the library where you're calling from? I can be there in 30 minutes. "Really? You'd come all the way down here? Of course. You did me a huge favor. Travis was already grabbing his keys and heading for the garage. Something about this Marcus kid intrigued him. In a world where people sold stories to tabloids and posted everything on social media, here was someone who'd found a wallet full of cash and just wanted to return it quiet. As he drove downtown, Travis found himself wondering about Marcus's story. The kid had said he didn't have a phone, which suggested money was tight. He'd found $3,000 in cash and hadn't touched it. That kind of integrity was rare at any age, but especially in someone young enough to still have a kid's voice. The Kansas City Public Library's main branch was an impressive building, all glass and modern architecture. Travis had driven past it hundreds of times, but never been inside. As he walked through the front door, he wondered how many kids like Marcus spent their afternoons here because it was warm and safe and free. He found Marcus in the computer section, a skinny black kid who couldn't have been more than 12 years old. He was wearing a Kansas City Chiefs hoodie that had seen better days and jeans that were clean but clearly hand-me-down. When he saw Travis approaching, his eyes went wide. "Mr. Kelce, is that really you?" "That's me," Travis smiled, extending his hand. "You must be Marcus." Marcus stood up and shook Travis's hand with a grip that was surprisingly firm for such a small kid. Up close, Travis could see that Marcus was probably even younger than he'd initially thought. Maybe 11 or 12 at most. "I can't believe you actually came," Marcus said, reaching into his backpack. "Here's your wallet, sir. Everything's exactly like I found it." Travis took the wallet and immediately felt its familiar weight. He opened it up and saw his ID, all his credit card, and yes, the cash was all there. Every single bill. "Marcus, this is incredible. Do you have any idea how rare it is to find someone as honest as you?" The boy shrugged, looking embarrassed by the praise. "My mama always taught me if something ain't yours, you don't touch it. She said the way you treat other people's stuff says everything about who you are." The simple wisdom of it hit Travis harder than he expected. Here was a kid who clearly didn't have much, but who understood something about character that many adults never learn. "Your mama sounds like a smart woman. Is she here with you?" Marcus's expression changed, becoming more guarded. "No, sir. She's at work." There was something in the way Marcus said it that made Travis suspect there was more to the story, but he didn't want to pry, at least not yet. "Well, I meant what I said about a reward," Travis said, pulling out several $100 bills from the wallet. "This is for being honest." Marcus took a step back, shaking his head. "I can't take that, Mr. Kelce. I didn't do nothing special. I just did what anybody should do." "Marcus, not everybody would do what you did. Trust me on that. But I can't take money for doing the right thing. That's not how it works." Travis stared at this kid who was turning down more money than he'd probably ever seen at once, all because he didn't think returning a lost wallet deserved a reward. In that moment, Travis realized he wasn't just looking at an honest kid. He was looking at someone special. Travis pocketed the money Marcus had refused and sat down in the chair next to him. The library was busy with after-school activity, kids doing homework, adults using computers, people just trying to stay warm. But Travis's attention was completely focused on the boy beside him. "Marcus, can I ask you something? How old are you?" 11, Marcus replied, then quickly added, "But I'll be 12 next month. And you come to the library often?" Marcus nodded. "Pretty much every day after school. It's quiet here, and they got computers and books and stuff." "What about at home? You got a computer there?" Marcus's jaw tightened slightly. "We don't really have a home right now. Me and Mom have been staying at the shelter over on Cherry Street." The words hit Travis like a punch to the gut. This kid who'd just returned $3,000 in cash was homeless. The irony was staggering and heartbreaking. "The shelter," Travis repeated, trying to keep his voice neutral. "How long have you been there?" "About 4 months now. Ever since Mama lost her job at the hotel." Marcus looked down at his hand. "She was a housekeeper there for 3 years, but they said they had to cut staff. Now she's working 2 part-time jobs, but it ain't enough for us to get our own place yet." Travis felt a familiar anger rising in his chest, not at Marcus or his mother, but at a system that could leave good people struggling despite working their hardest. He'd seen it growing up in Cleveland, where plenty of families were one paycheck away from disaster. "What kind of jobs is your mama working now?" "She cleans offices at night, and during the day she works at a grocery store. But the grocery store only gives her like 20 hours a week, and the cleaning job pays minimum wage. Marcus's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing the weather rather than his family's struggle to survive. And your dad? Marcus's expression closed off completely. He ain't in the picture. Travis recognized that tone. It was the same one he'd used as a kid when adults asked about things he didn't want to talk about. He changed the subject. So, you found my wallet Monday night. What were you doing in that part of town? Mama was working late at one of the office buildings near there. Sometimes I walk over to meet her when she gets off, so we can ride the bus back to the shelter together. It's safer that way. And you just saw my wallet lying there? Yeah, it was under a car in the parking, all wet and muddy. At first, I thought it might be trash, but then I picked it up and saw all the stuff inside. Marcus paused. I knew right away it belonged to someone important because of all them credit cards and the money. But you didn't know it was mine specifically? Not at first. I can't read so good yet, so it took me a while to figure out the name on the ID. Then I remembered seeing you on TV, and I was like, dang, this is Travis Kelce's wallet. Travis smiled at that. What did you do then? I took it back to the shelter and asked one of the workers there to help me figure out how to get in touch with it. She said we should probably just turn it in to the police, but Marcus trailed off. But what? But I don't really trust the police that much. No offense if you know some good ones, but in my experience, they don't always do right by people like me and Mama. Chuki, it was another piece of wisdom that seemed too mature for an 11-year-old boy, but Travis understood it completely. In certain communities, the police weren't seen as protectors, but as potential threats, and often for good reason. So, you decided to try to contact me directly? Yeah. The lady at the shelter helped me look you up online yesterday, and we found some interviews where you talked about growing up and your family and stuff. You seemed like a good person, someone who'd understand. Understand what? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, seeming to wrestle with whether to say what was on his mind. Understand what it's like to not have, but still try to do right. The simple honesty of it took Travis's breath away. This kid had somehow intuited that despite all his success and wealth, Travis remembered what it felt like to struggle, and he'd been right. You know what, Marcus? You're a pretty smart kid. Mama always says, I'm too smart for my own good. Your mama sounds like someone I'd like to meet. What time does she get off work tonight? Marcus checked the clock on the computer screen. Not until 10. She's doing the late shift at the offices downtown. That's pretty late for you to be out waiting for. I ain't scared. I know how to take care of myself. Travis believed him, but it still bothered him that an 11-year-old had to navigate the city at night just to walk his mother home from work. Marcus, I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. When you found that money in my wallet, did you think about keeping some of it, even for just a second? Marcus considered the question seriously. Yeah, I thought about it. $3,000 would change everything for me and Mama. We could get our own place, maybe even get a car so she don't have to take the bus everywhere. But you didn't take any. No, sir. Why not? Marcus looked Travis directly in the eye. Because it wasn't mine. And because if I took money that didn't belong to me, I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror. Mama taught me that your character is what you do when nobody's watching. Travis felt something shift inside his chest. He'd met plenty of people in his life, teammates, celebrities, business executives, but he couldn't remember the last time someone had impressed him as much as this 11-year-old boy. Marcus, I want to help you and your mama, not as a reward for returning my wallet, but because I think you're exactly the kind of people this world needs more of. Marcus shook his head immediately. We don't take charity, Mr. Kelce. Mama's real proud, and she'd be upset if she knew I was even talking to you about our business. This wouldn't be charity. This would be, Travis searched for the right word. This would be friends helping friends. But we ain't friends. You don't even know us. Maybe not yet, but I'd like to change that, if you're open to it. Marcus looked uncertain. I don't know. Mama always says when something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Your mama's right to be cautious. But Marcus, sometimes good things happen to good people. Not often enough, but sometime. What kind of help are you talking about? Travis was quiet for a moment, thinking. He didn't want to overwhelm the kid or make promises he couldn't keep. But he also couldn't just walk away from this situation. How about this? Let me meet your mama first. If she's okay with it, maybe we can figure out some ways I can help without it feeling like charity. Deal? Marcus chewed on his lower lip, clearly torn between hope and skepticism. I guess I could ask her if she'd want to meet you. That's all I'm asking for right now. Travis pulled out his phone and handed it to Marcus. Put your mama's work number or wherever she can be reached. I'll call her tomorrow and see if she'd be willing to talk. As Marcus typed in the number, Travis found himself thinking about the conversation he'd just had. In 15 minutes, this kid had shown him more about integrity, family loyalty, and quiet dignity than he'd seen in years of dealing with agents, endorsement deals, and celebrity culture. He had a feeling that meeting Marcus Johnson was going to change his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Travis called the grocery store the next morning, asking to speak with Shanice Johnson. The manager seemed confused about why someone would be calling for one of their part-time employees, but eventually put Travis through. "This is Shanice," came a tired but professional voice. "Ms. Johnson, my name is Travis Kelce. I think your son Marcus mentioned he might talk to you about me." There was a long pause. "You're really Travis Kelce? Like the football player?" "Yes, ma'am. Marcus found my wallet a few days ago and returned it to me. I was hoping I could meet with you to thank you for raising such an honest young man." Another pause. "Mr. Kelce, I don't know what Marcus told you about our situation, but we don't need any handout." Travis smiled at the defensive pride in her voice. It reminded him of his own mother. "I'm not offering handouts, Ms. Johnson. I'd just like to buy you and Marcus dinner sometime if you're willing. No strings attached." I don't understand. Why would someone like you want to have dinner with someone like me? Because someone like you raised someone like Marcus, and I'd like to understand how you did that. Shanice was quiet for so long that Travis wondered if the call had dropped. "Ms. Johnson, you still there?" "I'm here. This is all very strange, Mr. Kelce. Things like this don't happen to people like me. Maybe they should happen more often." After some back and forth, Shanice agreed to meet Travis for dinner the following evening at a modest restaurant near downtown. Her choice, not his. She insisted on paying for her own meal, which Travis respected even as he quietly planned to handle the check without making a scene about it. Travis arrived at Mel's Diner 15 minutes early and chose a booth near the back where they could talk privately. The place was exactly what he'd expected from Shanice's choice: clean, unpretentious, and affordable. The kind of restaurant where working families could take their kids without breaking the budget. Shanice Johnson walked in exactly on time, and Travis recognized her immediately, despite never having seen her before. She had the same intelligent eyes as Marcus, the same quiet dignity. She was smaller than he'd expected, maybe 5'4", but she carried herself with a strength that reminded him of his own mother. Marcus was with her, wearing the same Chiefs hoodie from the library, but with cleaner jeans. He waved shyly at Travis from across the restaurant. "Ms. Johnson," Travis stood up as they approached. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Please, call me Shanice," she said, shaking his hand with a firm grip. "And thank you for whatever this is." They ordered burgers and fries all around, the kind of simple meal that felt comfortable rather than fancy. As they waited for their food, Travis found himself studying Shanice. She was probably in her early 30s, with tired eyes that spoke of long hours, constant worry, but also with an underlying resilience that reminded him why Marcus had turned out the way he had. "So, Shanice, Marcus tells me you wanted to thank me for raising an honest kid. That's nice and all, but I'm pretty sure there's more to this story." Travis appreciated her directness. "You're right. There is more to it. Marcus told me about your situation, the shelter, your jobs, the struggle to get back on your feet. I've been thinking about it ever since. And I'd like to help, if you'll let me." Shanice's jaw tightened. "Mr. Kelce, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but Marcus and I don't take charity. We've been taking care of ourselves just fine." "Living in a shelter isn't exactly taking care of yourselves just fine," Travis said gently. "It's temporary," Shanice replied firmly. "I'm working 2 jobs, saving every penny I can. We'll have our own place again soon." "How soon?" Shanice looked uncomfortable. "That's not really your business." "You're right, it's not. But Marcus made it my business when he returned my wallet with $3,000 untouched. Do you have any idea how rare that is? I know my son is a good boy." "He's more than a good boy, Shanice. He's extraordinary. And the fact that he's extraordinary tells me everything I need to know about you." Their food arrived, providing a natural break in the conversation. Travis watched as Shanice helped Marcus with his order, the small maternal gestures that spoke of a deep bond between mother and son. "Marcus," Travis said, "why don't you tell your mama what you told me about why you didn't keep any of the money from my wallet?" Marcus looked between his mother and Travis, clearly uncomfortable being put on the spot. I did what Mama taught me. If something ain't yours, you don't touch it. Shanice's expression softened as she looked at her son. That's right, baby. But Mr. Kelce, lots of parents teach their kids right from wrong. That doesn't make us special. Actually, it does, Travis replied. Do you know how many people I've met in my career who had every advantage in life, but no moral compass whatsoever? Your son has something that can't be bought or taught in any school. He has character. Character don't pay rent, Shanice said quietly. No, it doesn't. But it's worth more than rent. It's worth more than anything. Travis leaned forward, choosing his words carefully. Shanice, I want to make you a proposition. Not charity, not a handout. A business proposition. What kind of business proposition? I need someone I can trust to help me with community outreach. Someone who understands what it's like to struggle, who knows how to connect with families who are going through hard time. Someone who can help me make sure my charitable foundation is actually helping the people who need it most. Shanice frowned. You don't even know me. Why would you trust me with something like that? Because you raised Marcus. Because you've been working 2 jobs to avoid taking charity. Because everything I've seen about you and your son tells me you're exactly the kind of person I need on my team. What would this job involve? Visiting shelter, talking to families in need, helping me understand where our money and resources can do the most good. It would be full-time, with benefits and a salary that would get you and Marcus out of the shelter and into a good apartment. Shanice stared at him for a long moment. Mr. Kelce, this all sounds too good to be true. I know it does, but sometimes good things happen to good people. That's what you told me yesterday, Marcus chimed in. Travis smiled at the boy. Smart kid, remembering everything I say. He's got a good memory, Shanice agreed. But Mr. Kelce, I don't have experience with that kind of... I clean offices, stock shelves. I don't know anything about foundation or community outreach. You know about being in need. You know about working hard and maintaining your dignity. You know about raising a child with integrity, despite difficult circumstances. That's exactly the experience I need. Travis could see Shanice wrestling with the decision. Pride warred with practicality. Skepticism battled hope. What if it doesn't work out? She asked finally. Then we'll figure something else out. But Shanice, I have a feeling it's going to work out better than either of us expect. Marcus tugged on his mother's sleeve. Mama, remember what you always tell me about sometimes you got to take a chance on good people? Shanice looked down at her son, then back at Travis. For the first time since he'd met her, she smiled. You really think this could work? I think, Travis said, that Marcus returning my wallet was the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. And I think it's going to turn out to be the best thing that's happened to your family in a long time, too. Teet. Shanice extended her hand across the table. All right, Mr. Kelce, let's see what happened. As they shook hands, Travis felt something he hadn't experienced in years of football success and celebrity status. He felt like he was part of something that mattered more than wins and losses, more than fame and fortune. He felt like he was part of a family. 3 weeks later, Travis stood in the doorway of a 2-bedroom apartment in a safe, middle-class neighborhood, watching Marcus explore what would be his first real bedroom in 4 months. The boy was running his hands along the walls like he couldn't believe they were real, and the wonder on his face made Travis's chest tight with emotion. Mama, look, Marcus called out. I got my own closet and everything. Shanice emerged from the master bedroom, her eyes bright with unshed tears. It's beautiful, baby. Really beautiful. The apartment wasn't fancy by Travis's standard, but it was clean, safe, and furnished with everything a small family would need. More importantly, it was theirs. Shanice had signed the lease that morning, using the advance from her new job with the Kelce Foundation to cover the deposit and first month's rent. You sure this is okay? Shanice asked Travis for the 10th time. The rent seems high for what the foundation is paying me. Shanice, we've been over this. Your salary is competitive for your position, and this neighborhood is exactly where I want my community outreach coordinator living. You need to be safe, and Marcus needs to be in a good school district. It was true, but it was also an understatement. Travis had quietly arranged for the foundation to cover utilities and had prepaid 6 months of rent, though he'd made sure those details were buried in paperwork that Shanice was unlikely to scrutinize too closely. Her pride was important to him, and he'd learned to navigate around it rather than challenge it directly. When do I start at the new school? Marcus asked, joining them in the living room. Monday, Travis replied, "and I talked to the principal. She's expecting you, and she knows you're smart as a whip even if you're still catching up on some of your reading." Marcus had tested below grade level in several subjects, a common result of attending underfunded schools and dealing with housing instability. But his intelligence was obvious to anyone who spent time with him, and Travis was confident that with stability and support, the boy would thrive academically. "Mr. Kelce," Marcus said, his voice suddenly serious. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why are you really doing all this? And don't say it's because I returned your wallet, because that's not enough reason for all this." Travis sat down on the couch, motioning for Marcus to join him. Shanice settled into the armchair across from them, clearly curious about his answer as well. "You want the honest truth?" Marcus nodded. "When I was about your age, my family went through some tough time. Not as tough as what you and your mama have been dealing with, but tough enough. My dad worked construction, and sometimes work was slow. There were weeks when we ate a lot of peanut butter sandwich and mac and cheese." Travis paused, remembering those days more clearly than he had in years. "One winter, our heat got turned off because we couldn't pay the bill. It was freezing in our house, and I remember my mom trying to keep me and my brother warm with every blanket we owned. I felt ashamed, I guess, like we were different from other families, like there was something wrong with us." Marcus was listening intently, his young face serious and understanding. "Then one day, our neighbor Mrs. Patterson knocked on our door. She said she'd been making too much food and wondered if we'd help her eat it. She brought over this huge pot of chili and cornbread, enough to feed us for 3 days. But the way she did it, it didn't feel like charity. It felt like kindness." "What happened to your family?" Shanice asked quietly. "Dad found steady work again. We got back on our feet, and eventually things got better. A lot better, obviously. But I never forgot Mrs. Patterson, and I never forgot how it felt to be hungry and cold and worried about things that kids shouldn't have to worry about." Travis looked directly at Marcus. "When you returned my wallet with all that money untouched, when you refused to take a reward because you said you were just doing what anyone should do, you reminded me of something important. You reminded me that good people exist everywhere, in every situation, no matter how difficult things get." "But lots of people are good," Marcus said. "That still don't explain why you chose us." Travis smiled at the boy's persistence. "You're right, lots of people are good. But Marcus, in my world, the world of professional sports and celebrity and business, I don't always see that goodness. I see a lot of people who want things from me, who tell me what they think I want to hear, who change their behavior because of who I am and what I have." He gestured around the apartment. "But you didn't do any of that. You found my wallet, you returned it without expecting anything, and you've been nothing but genuine with me from the moment we met. That's rare, Mark. That's really rare. So this is about you as much as it's about us," Shanice observed. "Yes," Travis admitted, "it is. Working with your family, helping you get back on your feet, creating opportunities for Marcus. It reminds me why I wanted to start a foundation in the first place. It reminds me of what's important." Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing this information. "Mr. Kelce, can I tell you something? Always. I used to think that rich people didn't care about people like me and Mama. I thought they just lived in their big houses and didn't think about anybody else. And now I think maybe some of them are just like regular people, except with more money. And maybe if you got good people with more money, they can help good people who don't have enough money." The simple wisdom of it made Travis laugh out loud. "Marcus, you just summed up my entire philosophy about wealth and responsibility in one sentence." "He's got a way of doing that," Shanice said proudly. Travis's phone buzzed with a text from his agent, reminding him about a photo shoot the next day. The contrast between his old life and this moment struck him forcefully. 6 months ago, he would have been thinking about endorsement deals and social media posts. Now he was sitting in a modest apartment, talking with an 11-year-old boy about philosophy and responsibility. "I should probably head out," Travis said, standing up. "Let you two get settled in your new place." "Mr. Kelce," Shanice said, "I just want you to know, this isn't just about the apartment or the job. This is about hope. You gave us hope when we didn't have any left. You always had hope, Shanice. You just needed an opportunity to use it." As Travis headed for the door, Marcus ran after him. "Mr. Kelce?" "Wait." Travis turned around. "What's up, buddy?" "Thank you for everything, but mostly for treating us like we matter." Travis knelt down to Marcus's eye level. "Marcus, you don't need to thank me. You've given me way more than I've given you." "How?" You reminded me who I want to be." As Travis drove away from the apartment complex, he thought about the conversation he'd just had. In his professional life, he was used to being surrounded by people who told him he was special, who treated him like his success made him different from everyone else. But Marcus and Shanice had done something much more valuable. They'd reminded him that success was only meaningful if you used it to lift up others. They'd shown him that character and integrity weren't about wealth or status. They were about choices, about how you treated people when no one was watching, about what you did when faced with difficult decisions. His phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Marcus, sent from Shanice's phone. "Mr. Kelce, I'm gonna make you proud, I promise." Travis had to pull over for a moment because his vision was blurring with tears. In a life full of achievements and accolades, that simple text message felt like the greatest victory he'd ever experienced. 6 months later, Travis stood at the back of Jefferson Elementary School's auditorium, watching Marcus Johnson walk across the stage to receive the Student of the Year award. The boy who had been reading below grade level was now at the top of his 6th grade class, and his essay about heroes in everyday life had won the district-wide competition. "That's my baby!" Shanice called out from the front row, not caring who heard her. She was wearing a new dress, the first one she'd bought for herself rather than finding at a thrift store, and her face radiant with pride. Travis felt his own chest swell with emotion as Marcus spotted him in the crowd and gave him a small wave. The transformation in the boy over the past 6 months had been remarkable, but not in the ways Travis had expected. Marcus hadn't become a different person. He'd simply become more fully himself, with the confidence and security that came from having stable housing, good nutrition, and adults who believed in his potential. After the ceremony, the three of them went to celebrate at Marcus's favorite restaurant, still the same diner where Travis had first met Shanice, despite all the changes in their circumstances. "So," Travis said, sliding into their usual booth, "Student of the Year. That's pretty impressive." Marcus grinned, but then his expression grew more serious. "Mr. Kelce, can I ask you something?" "Always." "In my essay, I wrote about how heroes don't always wear capes or play sport. Sometimes they're just regular people who choose to do the right thing when nobody's watching. Do you think that's true?" Travis exchanged a glance with Shanice, both of them struck by the maturity of the question. "I think that's the truest thing anyone's ever said to me," Travis replied. "Why do you ask?" "Because I've been thinking about that night I found your wallet, and I realized something." "What's that?" "I didn't return your wallet because I thought you'd help us. I returned it because it was the right thing to do. But what you did after that, helping me and Mama, giving us a chance at a better life, that was you choosing to be a hero when nobody was making you do it." Travis felt his throat tighten. "Marcus, I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who recognized goodness when I saw it." "But that's what heroes do," Marcus insisted. "They see good in people and help it grow." Shanice reached across the table and squeezed Travis's hand. "He's right, you know. You didn't just change our circumstances, you changed how we see ourselves, how we see what's possible. And you changed how I see what's important," Travis replied. "I used to think success was about individual achievement, touchdowns, statistics, endorsement deals. Now I know it's about connection, about using whatever platform you have to lift others up." Their food arrived, but the conversation continued. Travis found himself reflecting on how much his life had changed since that rainy night when he'd lost his wallet. The Kelce Foundation's community outreach program, with Shanice as its coordinator, had helped over 200 families find stable housing and employment. Marcus had become something of a poster child for the program, though Travis was careful to protect the boy's privacy and normal childhood. "Mr. Kelce," Marcus said between bites of his burger, "I got something to tell you." "What's that?" "I want to be like you when I grow up." Travis smiled. "You want to play football?" "No." Marcus shook his head seriously. "I want to help people the way you help people. I want to use whatever I have to make things better for families like me and Mama were." The simple declaration took Travis's breath away. "Marcus, you don't have to wait until you grow up to help people. You're already doing it." "How?" "By being exactly who you are. By showing other kids that integrity matters more than circumstance. By proving that good people exist everywhere, in every situation." After dinner, they walked to Travis's car together. The evening was warm, and the streets of Kansas City were alive with summer activity. As they reached the Lamborghini, Marcus ran his hand along the sleek surface. "You know what's funny?" Marcus said. "What?" When I first saw this car, I thought it meant you were different from me, like you lived in a whole different world. And now? Now I know we're not that different. You just had more opportunity. But inside, where it counts, we both try to do right by people. Travis knelt down to Marcus's eye level, something that had become a habit over the past months. Marcus, I want you to remember something, okay? Okay. You're going to have opportunities now that you didn't have before. Good schools, college, maybe even opportunities to become wealthy yourself someday. But no matter how much success you have, never forget where you came from. Never forget what it felt like to struggle. Why? Because that's what will keep you connected to your purpose. That's what will remind you to help others the way people helped you. Marcus nodded solemnly. I'll remember. As Travis drove home to his mansion in Leawood, he thought about the conversation they'd just had. In trying to mentor Marcus, he'd ended up learning more about himself than he'd taught the boy. The relationship had become reciprocal in ways he never could have anticipated. His phone rang as he pulled into his driveway. It was his brother Jason calling from Philadelphia. Hey, what's up? Travis answered. Just saw the story about you and that kid Marcus on ESPN, Jason said. Pretty cool stuff, man. Thanks. It's been life-changing, honestly. How so? Travis thought about how to explain it. Remember when we were kids, and Mom used to say that the measure of a person wasn't what they had, but what they did with what they had? Yeah, I finally understand what she meant. 2 days later, Travis received a call that would cap off the most meaningful period of his life. It was from the mayor's office, informing him that Kansas City was naming him Humanitarian of the Year for his work with homeless families and at-risk youth. It's a big honor, his publicist told him. Great for your brand, great for the foundation. But Travis barely heard her. He was thinking about Marcus's essay, about the boy's definition of heroes as people who choose to do the right thing when nobody's watching. The award ceremony was held at the Kansas City Convention Center, with hundreds of community leaders, business executives, and elected officials in attendance. When Travis took the stage to accept the award, he looked out at the crowd and saw Marcus and Shanice sitting in the front row, both dressed up and beaming with pride. Thank you for this honor, Travis began, holding the crystal plaque. But I have to be honest with you, I don't deserve this award, at least not on my own. He gestured toward Marcus and Shanice. 6 months ago, a young man named Marcus Johnson found my wallet in a parking lot. That wallet contained $3,000 in cash, plus credit cards and identification. Marcus was living in a homeless shelter with his mother at the time. $3,000 would have been life-changing money for his family. The room was complete silence. But Marcus didn't keep a single penny. He spent 3 days figuring out how to contact me so he could return everything exactly he'd found it. When I tried to give him a reward, he refused it. He said he was just doing what anyone should do. Travis paused, looking directly at Marcus. That young man taught me something that day. He taught me that integrity isn't about what you have or don't have. It's about who you choose to be when faced with difficult decisions. And he taught me that real wealth isn't measured in dollars, it's measured in character. The applause started small, but built to a standing ovation. Travis waited for it to die down before continuing. So while I'm honored to receive this award, I want everyone to understand that the real humanitarian in this story is Marcus Johnson, a boy who had nothing but gave everything, not money, but something far more valuable. He gave an example of what it means to live with integrity. After the ceremony, as people mingled and congratulated Travis, he found himself standing with Marcus and Shanice near the back of the room. That was embarrassing, Marcus said, but he was smiling. Good, Travis replied. You should be embarrassed when people praise you for being decent. It means you still understand that decency should be normal, not exceptional. He's been like this all evening, Shanice laughed. Acting like returning a wallet is no big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal, Marcus insisted. That's the point. Travis looked at this remarkable boy, now 12 years old, honor roll student, and apparently philosopher, and felt a familiar tightness in his chest. Marcus, can I tell you something? Sure. Finding your wallet was the best thing that ever happened. Why? Because it led me to you and your mama, and you two reminded me of something I'd forgotten. What? That the best victories aren't the ones you win for yourself. They're the ones you win for other people. As they walked out of the convention center together, Travis realized that this wasn't really an ending, it was a beginning. Marcus would graduate from high school with honors, go to college on a scholarship, and eventually returned to Kansas City to work alongside Travis at the foundation. Shanice would become one of the most respected advocates for homeless families in the state, but all of that was still in the future. Tonight, they were just three people who had found each other through an act of simple honesty and who had discovered that sometimes the most profound changes come from the smallest acts of integrity. Travis's phone buzzed with congratulations from teammates, coaches, and celebrities. But the message that mattered most was the one from Mark, sent from his mother's phone. "Thank you for seeing the good in us and helping it grow. That's what real heroes do." For the second time in 6 months, Travis had to pull over because his vision was blurred with tears. But this time, they were tears of gratitude for a lost wallet, for an honest boy, for a reminder that the best things in life can't be bought or earned. They can only be found, returned, and shared.